They both said this was a basketball play. Now, Greeny, let's be honest. If this was the other way around, oh, Lord, you can only imagine how the conversation would have gone.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And when you think about this circumstance in this day and age that we're in, a lot of people project their own subjective feelings on these ladies as, you know, people that have gotten to know them. They just want to...
If this were the other way around, oh, Lord, you could have only imagined how the conversation would have... Well, you know what, Monica? That's a good point. That's a good point. Every now and then, well, you know what they say, a dead clock is right twice a day. Monica.
Breaking. ESPN's Monica McNut just took a detour from the hypocrisy highway to throw shade at Caitlin Clark after Angel Reese threw a full WWE move on her. Where was all this outrage when Clark was getting body slammed like she owed someone money? Silent as a church mouse at midnight. But now, suddenly it's a crime scene. Buckle up because we're diving headfirst into the double standard so deep, even LeBron would flop in protest.
This video that is ESPN Monica McNut going on a little rant about double standard with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese over this flagrant foul in the WNBA.
Oh, look who's trending again. It's ESPN's very own queen of basketball morality, Monica McNut, the woman who apparently wakes up every morning, pours herself a fresh glass of double standards, and prays at the altar of selective outrage. Because when Caitlin Clark gets tackled like she's playing linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens, it's crickets, absolute silence. You could hear a pin drop in the ESPN studio right between Stephen A. Smith yelling about LeBron and some guy trying to figure out how baseball works.
Oh!
And they will go to the monitor.
Wait a second.
To review this one.
Yeah, that's right.
Boom! Cold clock in her head. Oh, so this was the other way around. Oh, okay. The only difference is one was a hard foul that got called a flagrant, and one was a blatant non-play on the basketball. Let me just whack Caitlin Clark across the head. And as you can see, she was fairly far from the basketball. She was fairly far from the basketball. This was a clean, oh, now's my chance to get a swipe in. Let me take it and get a swipe in because I hate that girl that wears 22 over there in Iowa. And then look at our soft-ass teammates. Look at the sack of potatoes doing absolutely nothing while Caitlin Clark sits on the floor. No, nobody stands up for, Nalissa, have fun in Dallas, honey. See ya, wouldn't want to be ya. We had to bring in some real teammates. But what did Caitlin Clark do? What did Caitlin Clark do in this situation?
But fast forward to one emotional flick of the wrist from Angel Reese, and suddenly Monica McNut is rising like she's delivering a TED Talk titled How to Misinterpret Basketball for Clout and Chaos. It's like clockwork. The moment someone with the right narrative armor throws shade or an elbow, McNut turns into the Avengers, Justice League, and Oprah all rolled into one. You get accountability. You get accountability. Except, of course, if your name is Caitlin Clark.
Wow. One game into the WNBA season, guys. One game in. And we have mythical racism out there. Yeah, no proof, no evidence whatsoever, but the WNBA is investigating and ESPN just says, we must believe the WNBA, man. Racist comments. You heard that, what she said, right? Where was the comments? Where were the comments at? I don't even believe that Angel Reese even mentioned anything about racist comments. I must have missed that. And that sound definitely was not a monkey sound. It just wasn't. Boy, what a pathetic network ESPN is, guys.
Because let's be honest, Caitlin Clark could be thrown into a wall, have her arm dislocated mid-game, and McNut would still be in the studio analyzing how it was a teachable moment in humility. And yes, Monica, it's real funny how all that sisterhood and uplifting women's sports energy seems to get left behind the minute Clark is involved. It's almost like objectivity took a sabbatical.
I think it's time to take away the microphone from Monica McNut. I'm sick of her, bro. I'm really sick of her. This is the biggest goalpost mover in the media when it comes to Caitlin Clark.
Remember when Caitlin was shoved to the ground like she owed someone rent money? Not a peep from McNut. Silence so loud you could hear ESPN executives nervously shuffling their scripts around, trying to figure out if it's time to pretend they care about consistency. Nope, Not worth the ratings, apparently. But when Angel Reese shows some post-bucket sass, suddenly it's an emergency roundtable. Sirens. Cut to Monica in full rhetorical armor. This is bigger than basketball. Now, we're not saying Angel Reese doesn't deserve scrutiny for throwing bows like she's auditioning for UFC 309, but let's call this circus what it really is. Monica McNut's personal playground of narrative sculpting. 1 minute, she's telling us we need to respect women's sports by letting them be physical. The next, she's clutching pearls, like she just watched Caitlin Clark blink too hard in someone's direction. And let's not pretend this is some rare slip-up. No, this is a pattern, a full-blown McNuttian doctrine. If Caitlin Clark does it, it's a problem. If someone does it to Caitlin Clark, it's empowerment.
What do we have right here? Because Caitlin Clark did take quite the beating last year. Was it just Angel Reese, or did other players decide to take some cheap shots at Caitlin? Oh, it was other players. That's interesting. Chicago Sky. Oh, whoa. Did you see what Caitlin Clark did? What did she do after a hard foul? She got up and walked away because she's not a classless piece of trash. Oops, did I say that out loud? My bad. Kennedy Carter. Dejanay Carrington. Tiara McCowan. Oh, look at Izzy Magnabor going straight for the head. Oh, there's Angel Reese again. There's Dana Evans. And guess what we did last season? We did nothing but play ball.
Classic ESPN coverage, where objectivity goes to die and Monica McNut is the Undertaker. There's no fair play here, just a relentless highlight reel of who can twist a clean screen into a civil rights moment faster. But oh, the hypocrisy. You can practically smell it. Remember when Clark got bulldozed 3 games in a row? ESPN's coverage treated it like a fun little montage of hustle plays. Oh, look at that passion, that intensity. Cut to Caitlin lying on the court wondering if she signed up for basketball or a WWE Royal Rumble. And where was Monica? Probably crafting a tweet about how Clark should learn to adjust to the physicality. Because when Caitlin Clark is assaulted on court, it's not aggression, it's just good defense. You see, she's breaking barriers, so naturally she must also be expected to break a few ribs. Meanwhile, if Angel Reese so much as gets side-eyed by a referee, Monica is on a full spiritual journey about systemic bias and emotional trauma. Next thing you know, she's quoting Maya Angelou while dissecting a foul call. Monica, it's basketball, not a Shakespearean tragedy.
You know, I love how Americans, like a certain group of Americans, that tell you like, oh, there is no racial problem in America. We have passed racial relations being an issue. I don't see color and all these things. And all it takes is like one basketball game between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark for it to turn into a goddamn race war, right?
Let's talk about how ESPN and Monica McNut transformed Caitlin Clark into a convenient scapegoat. You know, the girl who's made women's college basketball so watchable that people are skipping actual NBA games just to see her drain 30-foot threes like it's an Olympic sport. But oh no, the real problem isn't the fact that Clark is revolutionizing viewership, it's that she doesn't know her place. Translation, she's not playing by Monica's ever-changing rulebook. It's fascinating how McNut wants us all to embrace the rise of women's sports, but only if it comes with a curated, sanitized version of femininity she agrees with. Strong? Yes. Competitive? Absolutely. But only if you smile politely after being blindsided and thank your opponent for the opportunity to be concussed. Monica's version of equality seems to involve a lot of Caitlin Clark being the emotional punching bag of the league, while McNut and her ESPN buddies turn every foul against Clark into a motivational poster. You could write a book titled 101 Ways to Downplay Assault When It's on the Wrong Player, and McNut would be featured in every chapter.
Angel Reese. Is that better? If I breathe like that, is that better? Showing that I'm all discombobulated and I can't think straight? Caitlin Clark knew it was a flagrant foul, and she got up and she hit her free throws. She didn't turn it into a whole song and dance. She didn't turn it into a theatric play. She didn't turn it into a whole performance. She didn't do anything like that. Angel Reese, on the other hand, she walks back and forth and chases Caitlin Clark down, doing that clout chasing thing that Angel Reese does, reliving the glory days. She sits on the check-in table, hears absolutely no racial slurs, hears absolutely no mean sounds. Here's absolutely nothing but boos being rained down from Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And of course, the WNBA released a statement. Monica McNut, you do realize that those things never happened, right? You do realize that those are a bunch of trolls on the internet that the WNBA and fools like you said to ignore.
Even Stephen A. Smith, the human megaphone of ESPN, the man who could debate a brick wall and declare victory, found himself, brace for it, speechless when the anti-Caitlin Clark pile-on reached its peak absurdity. Yes, Stephen A. Smith, who has turned yelling into an Olympic sport and can stretch a 2-minute sports take into a 45-minute soliloquy, actually had a moment of clarity. That's how far things had gone. Because when Caitlin Clark gets elbowed, hip-checked, tackled, or knocked into the third row without a single whistle in sight, the same analysts who explode over a sneeze during a Lakers game suddenly develop laryngitis. Silence, crickets, not even a disapproving eyebrow. But the second Clark takes a three-pointer with confidence, oh no, she's disrespectful. She scores 30 and dares to exist. Now she's controversial. Blink wrong, she's arrogant. And Stephen A., for once, saw the absurdity. The man who can find controversy in a coin toss realized maybe Caitlin Clark isn't the villain here. Maybe, just maybe, the people tackling her should be the focus. And maybe, hold on to your wigs, that includes media darlings like Monica McNut, who seemed more offended by Clark's presence than her performance.
I applaud the WNBA for their statement. Got no issues with it. I get where both of y'all are coming from. Y'all 1,000% correct. I don't disagree with a syllable that y'all have uttered. But I'm not as bothered by this as most people. Let me tell you why. I'm not bothered by this because I love when folks are stupid enough to show themselves. You see, what we need to worry about. Remember, as they say, you could have cats in sheets. We see them coming. And they said, no, just take off the sheets. Some folks said, just take off the sheets. We just gonna put on a suit and infiltrate and look like everybody else. So ultimately, a wider scope of people can be contaminated because you don't know who is who.
Because it's wild how a woman scoring baskets became a federal crime in sports media. Meanwhile, Angel Reese can play linebacker on a basketball court, and Monica McNut's analysis is basically, she's passionate. Caitlin gets assaulted like she wandered onto an NFL field mid-play, and somehow that's empowering? For who? So when Stephen A. Smith, the guy who once argued with himself for 10 minutes on live TV, can see the hypocrisy, it's time to stop pretending this isn't coordinated nonsense. Caitlin Clark gets fouled harder than an NBA trade rumor, but instead of calling out the blatant targeting, ESPN's own are too busy tripping over each other to remind everyone how unbothered they are. Except they're deeply bothered. Bothered enough to ignore basic fouls and create think pieces over a shrug. And if Stephen A. Smith is losing patience, then congratulations, ESPN. You've officially turned a man who once defended Kyrie Irving's flat earth phase into the voice of reason. That's not a hot take, that's a code red.
Does Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have any love or like for one another at all?
Respect.
Yeah, they have respect.
I don't know. That ain't what I asked. I know what the difference. I think I know the difference. You understand? Just like when you was at Upfronts, Eminem, telling folks, I know how to read. You understand? Say, I know you understand.
Get that in the house.
No. It's cool. It's all in fun. It's all in fun. It's all in love. But what I'm saying is that you know the difference. I did not say respect. I said love or like. They have it?
I think we saw a glimpse.
Monica's hypocrisy isn't just annoying, it's exhausting. This isn't commentary anymore. It's performance art. The same woman who preaches nuance and empathy delivers the most one-dimensional takes since someone called pineapples on pizza bold. If Caitlin Clark were to donate her entire salary to charity, Monica would ask why she didn't support a different one. It's not analysis, it's agenda. And the funniest part? Monica tries to play the I'm just keeping it real card like she's the only one brave enough to say what we're all thinking. No, Monica, you're just the loudest one saying what ESPN wants to hear. Because heaven forbid anyone on that network suggests that maybe, just maybe, Caitlin Clark deserves a little protection on the court too. Let's be real. Monica McNut and ESPN aren't fighting for women's basketball. They're fighting for control of the narrative. The goal isn't fairness, it's framing. And if that means sacrificing consistency or, actual facts, so be it. They're not calling the game, they're scripting it like a daytime drama.
It's like, isn't it? I think it's time for her to get fired, bro. Look, I'm not a person that wants someone's job to be gone, but to me, this is a fireable offense. How much, racial bias can you be? Racially biased. Like, this is racially biased to me.
But it's not working anymore. People are noticing. Fans are catching on. The double standards are leaking like a broken faucet, and even casual viewers are asking, wait, didn't she just say the opposite last week? Because when hypocrisy is this loud, you don't need surround sound. It's all a giant game of gotcha, where Caitlin Clark is always one breath away from being called problematic, and everyone else gets a pass stamped with Monica's approval. This isn't sports coverage. It's gatekeeping disguised as advocacy. And at some point, we've got to stop pretending like it's empowering. So what's next? Is Monica going to call for Clark to be benched because her ponytail was too aggressive? Maybe suggest that she should dribble with a softer cadence to avoid intimidating opponents? Maybe Clark should start handing out cookies after every shot to seem more likable? Honestly, ESPN might as well give Monica her own reality show, Keeping Up with the Contradictions. Every episode features her condemning something she praised last week, all while ignoring Caitlin Clark's latest injuries in favor of praising someone's defensive spirit.
For the first time, men and women have collectively agreed that Angel Reese was tripping when she got fouled by Caitlin Clark, even though Angel Reese caused the first foul. You see, after Angel Reese fouled Shawty trying to get the ball, but Shawty ain't getting mad, the minute Caitlin Clark reached for that ball, she want to flop to the floor and try to throw hands. Like, what you trying to throw hands for? Then when you look up close and personal, you see it was a basic foul. They gave her a flagrant foul for this. How? That baby had foul, bro. You about to throw hands and crash out about that foul? Not to mention, she hit the ball. You decided to go flop over, trying to pull a LeBron James.
And don't get us wrong, we love passionate commentary. We're all for holding players accountable. But can we at least pretend to apply the same standards across the board? Because at this rate, the only consistent thing about Monica McNut's analysis is her unwavering ability to twist reality into whatever narrative gets the most retweets. So go ahead, Monica. Keep calling out Clark for imaginary slights while pretending her bruises are badges of privilege. Just know that we see through it. The jig is up, the contradictions are noted, and the selective outrage is now as obvious as a flop in slow motion. At this point, Caitlin Clark could cure world hunger, and McNut would still find a way to frame it as problematic. The hypocrisy is industrial strength. And no matter how many think pieces she pumps out or how many faux-empowered panel discussions she leads, it doesn't change the fact that she's been caught red-handed in a double standard so obvious, even the referees could see it, and they miss everything.
Biggest takeaway from the Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark rivalry, if you want to call it that, I actually feel bad for Angel Reese at this point, and it has nothing to do with like how she's handled herself or anything. It's just simply Caitlin Clark is so much better than Angel Reese at basketball that it doesn't feel fair.
Yeah, I think Angel Reese is struggling with the fact that Caitlin Clark is better at her best thing than she is.
Well, she's better at everything.
And
she had a triple-double. She's tied for the third most triple-doubles in WNBA history, and she's played 50 games.
Yeah.
She's just better.
And they don't like each other, which is, again, I think good for the sport.
Great for the sport.
That they don't like each other. But then how do you deal with having a bunch of weirdos out there that now care very deeply about your sport?
Yes.
Without trying to actively push them away, which is also a mistake.
Right.
To push away the attention that your sport's getting.
Do you agree that, like, in a weird way, I feel bad for Angel Reese in the fact that
But hey, at least we can count on Monica for one thing, turning every non-issue into a morality play, starring herself as the enlightened truth teller and Caitlin Clark as the unwitting antagonist. It's not sports commentary, it's performance art, and unfortunately for her, the audience is starting to boo. Stay tuned for next week's episode of Why It's Always Caitlin's Fault. where Monica McNut explains how Clark's three-point range is a microaggression and why getting fouled in midair is actually a sign of poor sportsmanship. In the meantime, Caitlyn will just keep doing what she does best, dropping buckets, brushing off bruises, and somehow surviving Monica McNut's crusade against logic and fairness.